This October, volunteers from Port Allegany videotaped their friends and neighbors and created a video scrapbook about a day in the life in their hometown. Join us as they share their stories and become a part of the 10-year tradition of WPSU's Our Town series. Come along for a visit to our town, Port Allegany. Support for Our Town, Port Allegany comes from the First National Bank of Port Allegany, your locally owned, independent bank serving the financial needs of Port Allegany and surrounding communities since 1888 with a full range of financial products and personalized customer service. Member FDIC. Pittsburgh Corning Corporation, manufacturers of a wide variety of innovative glass block products for industrial, commercial, and residential customers worldwide. Pittsburgh Corning, a vital part of the Port Allegany community since 1938. The Port Allegany Economic Development Corporation, committed to advancing the industrial, economic, commercial, and civic interests of Port Allegany and the surrounding area. Dedicated workers, economic resources, and natural beauty, all here in Port Allegany. And by viewers like you. Thanks.
My name is Joe DeMott. I'm the mayor of Port Allegany. Our community was originally known as Canoe Place because this was a place to enter the Allegany River. If you start in the Emporium area and you climb the mountain and come back down this side, you can actually travel from the Susquehanna Valley into the Allegany Valley. So you could potentially go all the way from the Atlantic coast to New Orleans by canoe. And this was an important travel route for Native Americans and also for early Americans. About 1840, it became known as Port Allegany. The port refers to the logging industry. When originally a lot of logs were cut here, this was a great hemlock forest, and that wood was floated down the Allegany, generally to Pittsburgh. And it was quite a trek at that time that the rafters would make the rafts in this part of Pennsylvania and float them to Pittsburgh, and then they would walk home. So it was a pretty good trip. This whole area was originally a gigantic hemlock forest, and that hemlock forest is what really brought the original settlers into our area. And they cut the lumber, and of course the bark was used to make tanning materials, and so the tannery industry was the second big industry that was here in Port Allegany. You'll see a lot of pictures of scenery up here. It really is a beautiful place to live. One of the interesting things is that we don't have poisonous snakes up here. And I don't really know why. Probably a biologist could tell us that, but there are very few snakes within 25 miles of Port Allegany. So it's also a great place for hiking. In the next year, we are going to have a major renovation in the downtown area. We have a grant of approximately $800,000 that's being administered through PennDOT, and we will be building new sidewalks, putting in new light poles, putting in trees, additional parking, small addition to the park area. So we're very excited about that. Also, in the near future, we're going to be renovating our elementary school. Our vocational technical school is going to be expanding, and St. Cobain is having a major renovation and a big influx of capital into their plant, which is, again, very good news for Port Allegany. I took you on a little tour through the borough building. I took you to our police department, and we have an interview with our chief, Don Carley.
We have a department consisting of 3 full-time, 5 part-time officers. We provide 24-hour a day coverage, 7 days a week for the residents of Port Allegany Borough.
We have a electronic arraignment system by teleconference, and that was established in the county a couple of years ago.
We have a arraigning system where we bring the person in, they sit down in front of the TV, we connect to the magistrate's home or his office where he has an arraignment system set up. And everything is done on the TV at the magistrate's off hours.
That has actually saved us a lot of money over the years in additional cost and allowed us to leave our police force in town rather than being in the transport business quite so much. We have a lot of jobs in Port Allegany. When we passed an occupational privilege tax a few years back, we found that we have 1,800 jobs inside the borough limits. Now, in a town of 2,000 people, that's pretty good. The glass industry has supported this community for a long time. I'm really excited about the future because in the last few years, we've had a number of bright, talented young people either return to our community or move into our community. And so I think that bodes well for us in the future. The best thing about living in Port Allegany is the people. We have a lot of friendly people. We have a lot of bright, successful people here in Port Allegany. I have my grandchildren visiting here this summer, and I took my 6-year-old grandson downtown, and we went to the bank, we went to a store, we went to the post office, and on the way home he said, "Grandpa, do you know everyone that lives in this town?" And that's pretty, I don't know everyone, but I know an awful lot of them. And I think that's one of the really nice things about living in Port Allegany is that it is a small society and everyone knows everyone, and it's a very friendly place.
My name is Dave Causer. I've been a resident of the Port Allegany area my entire life, graduating from Port Allegany High School. I've been employed at Sanko Bank Containers for 34 years as shipping and distribution manager. We make glass containers for the wine, the food, and liquor business. Sanko Bank Containers is the #1 glass container producer in the world. In 1883, natural gas was discovered a quarter mile from where we are sitting right now. And in doing so, it supplied natural gas heating, lighting, for the town. And so the area business, people tried to entice businesses into the area by the late 1890s. And in 1896, the ones that were the most interested in it was the glass manufacturing company because of their need for the vast amount of natural gas and also availability of local sandstone in the area. We are here today because we're very fortunate. We were the first group to come to Port Allegany, and we are still here in operation, and it looks like we have a lot of longevity into the business. The Batch Tower is 145 foot tall. It was built in 1974. Its purpose is to store, mix, and supply raw materials for our furnaces for the manufacture of glass. Also very important to the manufacture of glass isn't just a raw material, but it's post-container cullet, recycled glass, which is very important in our operation. We purchase recycled glass, which we term as cullet, on a daily basis. In the tank control room, what they do is they monitor the temperature of the glass. The tanks are operating at about 2,900 degrees. It's about 2,900 degrees to melt the raw material and into glass. The molten glass flows from the tank out through the feeders, and as it supplies through the feeder area, it's running around 2,200 degrees. From there, it goes into where it feeds the machine. In this particular machine, you'll see a double gob. As you see in the video, you'll see 2 glass gobs. They go down and they feed the machine. The bottle being made here is being made at a speed of around 200 bottles a minute. Larger bottles, of course, slightly slower. Some of our small bottles. The baby food is made at a speed of around 500 bottles a minute. A lot of people understand that steel needs to be tempered to be stable, and glass has to go through a similar process known as annealing, and the layer is where the annealing process is controlled. It adds durability to the exterior of the container. Throughout our line process, they go into what's called single line. They follow through inspection equipment. These machines check the bottles for every dimensional issue that may be there, and also any visual defects, any flaw in the glass. And then it goes on to what we call an automatic case packer, and they are packed. One of the things you notice through the operation is at no time has anybody touched the bottle. It is all automation. The bottles then that are cased are palletized, and they're palletized due to customer specifications. All our product is stretch wrapped. That goes out, and some go directly to trucks for shipments to the customer, and others is staged in our warehouse for future shipments. This display is a large variety of a lot of the glass containers that we presently make. Those bottles that you see here are some of the early Pierce glass bottles that were produced in our infancy. And there's a few still available in the area today. Back in 1896, when the plant first started, the employee count was 125 people. They pulled 4 to 5 ton of glass a day. They made into glass containers. Presently, we have 330 employees, and we pull in excess of 450 ton a day. It's been a remarkable improvement.
I'm Christina Binder.
I'm Anna Margaret Binder, Christina's mom.
And I did footage on the churches in the area. And she knows more about the history and architecture and that sort of thing, so that's why she's here.
There are at least a dozen, maybe up to 15 churches in town and in the surrounding area. And the churches in this community are really known for working well together ecumenically. There's a very active ministerium, and together they sponsor Lenten services with lunch afterwards, Advent services with Christmas cookies afterwards, and other activities on the square.
The United Methodist Church has some very interesting stained glass windows. Some were created by a local Martha Knight, and one in particular was in the design of a fig tree, and each fig has a specific event in the church's history. The First Presbyterian Church was the first established church in the area, and it has a very remarkable stained glass window.
The stained glass window features Jesus Christ in contemporary form, and it was designed by a local art teacher, and Jesus bears a striking resemblance to her husband, who was a former math teacher here locally. We also filmed the Episcopal Church, which is also located on Arnold Avenue. And inside we captured Marie Binder, Christina's grandmother, setting up the altar for communion. And just up the street is Roman Catholic Church. This probably has the largest congregation of any church in town. And in the 80s, the interior went through a remarkable conversion in that originally it had straight back pews in rows, and they were taken out, and a more communal theater in the round sort of space was installed instead. And initially this met with a great deal of resistance, and it just seemed like a big party. People were waving to each other across the space when they came to Mass, but over time it's been very well received and really contributes to communal life of the congregation. The Alliance Church was originally Liberty School, which was for 5th and 6th grade students. And when a new school was built, this old school was put up for sale, and a local Alliance Church was established in our community. And the visionaries that brought that about purchased the old school property and renovated it. And now this church includes a gymnasium and a huge kitchen and some other facilities that a normal church wouldn't have. So it's really been serving the community very well in that it hosts the community soccer league for the younger children. Well, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and so I'm a transplant, having moved here in 1978, and fell in love with a man who was rooted and deeply entrenched here. And so Green Acres, we are there. It's a very safe place to raise a family. As Hillary Clinton says, it takes a village. You can count on other parents to watch out for your children. You can give them free rein of the town. But on the other hand, if they're riding their bikes too fast, you can count on other moms to tell you, which just happened last week.
I'm Keith Fortner, president of the First National Bank of Port Allegany. Our video is of the First National Bank of Port Allegany, both the main office and the Lily Bridge Place office. We toured the bank and got various areas of the bank, including the lobby of the main office and office areas. We took pictures specifically of a commemorative piece of artwork that we had created for our 100th anniversary, which is a stained glass replica of the bank's logo. We have quite a collection of historic items on display in the bank from years gone by. Old calendars, giveaway items that the bank used to give away, bread knives, scissors, letter openers, things like that. Lloyd Eastman is a, I guess you could say, a fixture of the First National Bank of Port Allegany. He started to work at the bank on his 21st birthday. I don't think he'd be too angry if I tell you that it's been 62 years that he's been working at the First National Bank. He's held many titles at the bank and currently enjoys the title of chairman of the board. Well, the bank, we believe, has been an integral part of Port Allegany since its inception in 1888. We are the second oldest bank in McKean County, and we're quite proud of being an independent community bank. We do a lot of residential lending to assist people in being able to buy homes and remodel homes and so on. Some commercial lending, but mostly we deal with individuals on a one-to-one basis. We've had the same name for 118 years, and we hope to keep it that way for another 118 years. We did travel to the roof of the bank and got a bird's eye view of the downtown area of Port Allegany. And then we went to our Lily Bridge Place office located on Mill Street and showed the facilities that we have there. My wife and I moved back to Port Allegany in 1977 and have lived here ever since. We find it a very nice place to raise not only our children, but now we have grandchildren in Port Allegany, and that makes it very nice. We have what we believe is a great school system, a very nice library, and we're close enough to some of the urban areas that if you want some of the things that cities have to offer, within a couple hours you can be there and enjoy that as well without all of the negative things that you find in cities. So Port Allegany is just a great place, very friendly, relaxed, and a nice place to call home.
My name is Mike Johnson. I'm a lieutenant with the Port Allegany Fire Department, and I videotaped the fire department. I think one of the things that sets our fire department apart from a lot of fire departments is that we have a very high dedication to training and being the best fire department that we can be. We're very fortunate in that we have 4 of our members are also local level fire instructors with the State Fire Academy. So we're able to have classes and things like that that some other fire departments maybe are not able to have in our own station. One of the things that we have recently did here is we had a live fire training exercise, which is also not very common anymore. It's more difficult to have these types of training exercises. But we all got together as a department and had a class where we actually set things on fire, so to speak, in a building that's designed to do that, and practice putting the fires out. We strive to make our training as realistic as possible because you don't get the opportunities like fire departments used to actually go put out fires. There aren't as many fires these days, so we have to practice putting out fires so that when we do have a real fire, we can do a very good and efficient job at it. It is difficult sometimes because we are very remotely located from other areas, other towns, other fire departments. We have to perform on the fire scene by ourselves for sometimes a long period of time before any other help gets here. So yeah, we certainly have to be maybe a little bit better because of that. We have also recently begun to have our firefighters nationally certified. We're very fortunate that about 20 of our firefighters are certified at this national level to at least the Firefighter 1, which is the entry-level standard. Along with that, the State Fire Academy and the State Fire Commissioner's Office provides a recognition system where departments that have a certain number of firefighters certified can get recognized. Not only were we the first fire department in McKean County to be recognized for having a certain number of firefighters certified, but we were the first fire department in about a 5-county area to get that recognition. As you can imagine, we need the equipment to work every time, the first time. We can't afford to have something break down when we need to use it. It's not like your lawnmower where you can wait and mow the lawn the next day. So we have to make sure that all of our equipment is properly maintained and in good working order. So we also, along with our weekly training sessions, we will also make sure that we take care of the equipment, inspect it, check it out, run it. There's a certain checklist that you go through to make sure that everything's working correctly. We get very little support from tax dollars, so we have to take it upon ourselves to raise the necessary funds that we need in excess of the tax money that we get. One of the ways that we do that, or that we've done that in the past, is through the bingo game. Every week we operate a bingo game, and generally that has provided us with the necessary funds that we need to provide the equipment and training and things like that that we need to have. We also have a very comprehensive fire prevention program in the community. Every year we visit some of the local daycare centers and we talk to their staff about fire safety. We give them some pointers on things that they can do to their facility to make it safer for the kids to be there. In Port Allegany, the ambulance and the fire department are actually two separate organizations, and the ambulance is just as important to the community, so I went up there and took some videotape up there. They recently acquired a new ambulance. They purchased a new ambulance and they were putting it into service. Their members were training in how to operate the new ambulance much in the same way that the fire department would train on their equipment. They were taking the old one, parking it in the parking lot until they have a chance to sell it, and backing the new ambulance into the ambulance building and use the new one full time. The fire department in Port Allegany is almost as old as the town is. This year, the fire department is celebrating its 120th anniversary. One of the neat things that we have is the original fire alarm bell that was used to get the firemen around and tell them that there was a fire is now located in front of the present firehouse. There are several pictures that we have, some of the original work, so to speak, of the fire department. There's a picture of a fire at the corner of Main and Mill Street at the old Dalrymple and Bard Company, which was the first known photograph of the fire department at work, and that fire was in 1889. The fire department is also an organization that provides something for people to do, I guess. It's not one of those things where you just kind of show up and hang out. Obviously, there's some work and training and things like that involved. It takes a lot of dedication to be a member of the fire department. And there certainly is an element of danger involved in fighting fires, whether it's in Port Allegany or anywhere else. However, there are a lot of members of the community that enjoy the fire department. That's kind of their volunteer activity. They provide their time and give their time back to the community in that way, and certainly the community needs that, and we appreciate it. We definitely take pride in having a very good fire department. I think we work really hard to get that fire department, to make sure that we have the good equipment that we need, to make sure that we're as well trained as we need to be. And that's something that we're definitely proud of, and the citizens of this town deserve that.
Coming up on Our Town Port Allegany, we'll take a look at the local schools, a local monument, and learn a bit of history about Portage Creek. But right now, show your support for Port Allegany and Channel 3 by making a pledge. Thanks.
My name is Patrick Krantz. I've lived in the area for the last 11 years. When this project came up, I decided I would try and shoot a little bit of the Allegany River and Portage Creek confluence. Portage Creek was used as a trail linking this area of the state and the upper Allegany River to the West Susquehanna River Basin. The Iroquois Indians who occupied this area prior to the arrival of the Europeans used this area extensively as a trade route. There was a sister tribe down in North Carolina, the Tuscaroras, who traded freely with the Iroquois Indians of the time. So the Iroquois Indians coming down from the Buffalo, New York area, passing through Ishiway and Olean, would gain the river here. And at this point, they would disembark and go overland up to Keating Summit and then get into the west branch of the Susquehanna. From there, they could go right down to Chesapeake Bay into the North Carolinas. Prior to the Iroquois Indians being here, there was a indigenous people known as the McFate people. And the McFate people also use this trade route. So this trade route is probably 1,000 years old. I've been fortunate over the past several years to be associated with the high school football booster club. And as a result, I've been allowed to do the videotaping of the games for the boosters. Every year we put on a big banquet and we show highlights of the year, and we just have a good time with it. When this project came up, I was scheduled to tape a game today, and I thought, well, nothing says community more than high school football. And it's always been a thrill for me to work with the young people in the town. They've always worked so hard, and they're always trying to put their best foot forward. And I think that the young people in this town are really a source of pride for the community. A good number of the people that grow up here will return here once they complete their educations, or to come back here to raise their own families. I think that says a lot for the community, that your young people are willing to stay here. The schools in our community are always very highly rated. We have one of the most outstanding music programs in this part of the state. Our vocal music program is head and shoulders above any in this area. Our marching band, our show band, performed this afternoon for us, and they put on an excellent show every year. They really go out of their way to put together a good show, and they perform it well. In fact, they're off to perform for a band festival this evening, and they're always a source of pride. I would also like to say how proud we are of our cheerleading squad. They put on quite a show for us. There's quite a few impressive displays in the tapes we took today. And the girls are very, very enthusiastic and support the team 100%, and they're always just a thrill to work with. I think that one of the important things about a community is it a good community for your children? Is it a good place to raise your family? And this community has a fairly perfect balance of industry, commerce, and ruralism. A person can leave work here and in 10 minutes be along their favorite stream or up in the woods to hunt, trap, whatever you want to do. It's so convenient. Anything you want to do is in the immediate area.
I'm Luke Healy, Vice President of Business Development with Recycol. I went out and filmed Recycol. I wanted to show what happens to recycled glass and how it gets back into the glass bottle manufacturing. The recycling plant started in 1998 and was an opportunity to take over the glass recycling operation that Ball Foster was going to discontinue. So this opportunity presented itself, and Randy Hobbs picked up on that opportunity and started Recycol, and it has grown to be one of the largest glass recyclers in the state of Pennsylvania. I began by showing what glass looks like when it comes into our facility. The recycling process is one where we try and remove all of the contaminants from the recycled glass. Contaminants would include metals and paper, ceramic and other glass-like contaminants. And we also need to crush and size the glass so that it is an acceptable standard for the glass bottle manufacturers to use as a raw material in the production of new bottles. One of the other things I wanted to show everyone today was the waste glass, the glass that we're unable to make into a cullet, as it's called, to sell to the bottle manufacturers. We have developed a new and innovative way to take that waste glass, which has formerly been landfilled. We clean that up and we replace it as the aggregate in precast concrete products. To date has been a landscape block. We've also poured some flat concrete work and some highway medium barriers. It would be a typical concrete batch mix, but instead of putting stone and sand in, we replace that with glass, which is very similar in characteristic. My favorite thing about Port Allegany is the hometown nature of the people, the fact that you can go anywhere and know somebody, and the family nature of where we live.
My name is Joe Lashway. I am employed at the First National Bank of Port Allegany as a vice president. I am also the treasurer, have been the treasurer of the Port Allegany Area Recreational Authority for the past 6 years. I took a video coverage of the community park, including the main Hogan or pavilion, picnic pavilion, the baseball field, tennis courts, basketball courts, also the main center or focal point of the park, the swimming pool, which is nestled right up against the high school. And I also took some video of the local community soccer association, which had 4 soccer games. They are ages 6 to 10-year-old children, and I videotaped some of the soccer games. The local Rotary Club kind of took the project of the community park under its wing and got it all started back in the Great Depression. Unfortunately, it's the fall and the pool is closed and has been 2/3 drained, readied for the winter. However, I did want to show the fact that how it's progressed over the years. It was a single pool, started in 1930. It became its current form in the 1980s when the main pool was added along with a intermediate pool and a toddler or kiddie pool was added. So there's actually three main pools all in one. The basketball courts, I believe, those were first put in the 70s. The tennis courts go back even further. I did see a record that those were put in the early 1960s. They are used by not only the residents, but the schools also. There's a cooperation with the schools. I took footage of 2 gym classes that took place, both on the tennis courts as well as the basketball courts. We also have some of the churches. The Alliance Church donates their piece of property behind their church for the use of the soccer. Each year there's fall soccer, and in the spring they allow the Baseball Association to use it for their Little League and T-ball. So, there's a lot of cooperation within the town, given the limited space that we have. The best thing about living in Port Allegany is, you know everyone, and everyone is so friendly. And you're able to slow your life down when the day is done, slow your life down and take part in your children's growing up and activities. It's not something that passes you by.
My name is George Riley, and I was videotaping the state game lands and some fishing opportunities in the area. I also videotaped the Canoe Place Fishing Game Club and try to document what they give back or the opportunities that they give to the community. I think that people make a big deal out of what we have locally because it's part of us. We like to be outdoors. We like to be in the woods, if you will, whether it's hiking in the summertime or hunting in the fall, fishing trout in the spring. We take our young people out. We have streams that are only for kids 12 and under. The Canoe Place Fishing Game Club, just outside of town, offers a rifle range, trap shooting range. They have black powder shoots. They have archery shoots, the 3D course that winds its way through the woods. They have monthly meetings. They try to give back to the community, and whether they're again raising the trout or youthful hunters course, making sure that they stock streams just for kids. Those things are part of what we want to give back. I did look at their trout hatchery. They raise about 5,000 trout every year to put in 3 local streams. And one of the things that I wanted to show people out there is that we have some of the best trout streams around. I know people travel great distances to get here, and so there's some videotape of a young man fly fishing. I'm a teacher because it's an opportunity to work with young people and to see them grow and to encourage the positives in all of them. I don't have a bad day teaching. I haven't met a bad kid. There's a few of them that have made bad choices, but I just look for positives in all of them and look for the positives that I have to give to them. When I leave this place, I'm not going to take anything with me. So if I can give it all to somebody, that's important to me. One of the other things that I videotaped was a junior high football game. In Port Allegany, we're a big sports community. We have a lot of young people playing in a variety of sports, and we have a lot of support for those sports. Immediately following that game, we try to have a tailgate party, and that's what we call it. We cook hot dogs and have chips and Gatorade for the entire community. The entire community is invited, and of course it's more kids than anybody else, but it's an opportunity to prepare ourselves for the upcoming weekend events. I lived in Port Allegany for over 18 years. I grew up in Auburn, New York, and met a fantastic young woman at college, and this was her hometown, so that's what brought me here. The first time I was here, one of the first days I was here, I was working on an automobile that wasn't working as it should, and the local garage let me borrow their tools. It's a small community. It's a fantastic community.
I'm Paul Burns, and I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and we built a gazebo, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. It was started about 11 years ago, and the gazebo was built on the town square, and of course that required the cooperation of the Borough Council. They provide us with help from the labor and the backhoes and electricity and water and so on. And so it was really an effort of the Rotary Club and the borough. I thought it would be built for around $10,000, from previous experience, but that was too long before, and it ended up, it cost about $25,000 to build it, with most of the labor actually donated. But most of the members from the bank are in the Rotary Club, and everybody's working together. And, you know, in a few years, we had the thing paid for. And there were a few generous donations from local people. But the bulk of the money came just week by week from the Rotarians. I asked them if we should talk to people and try to raise some money for that. No. They said, we're going to pay for it. They have band concerts, they have 4th of July and Memorial Day programs, there's auto shows, book sales, art sale, different things like that. And so the town square is very important to the people of Port Allegany, and I think that the Rotary Club has made a real contribution to the town by restoring the bandstand or the gazebo. You don't judge a community by its what buildings they have and that type of thing, really. You judge it by its people and the cooperation. And, you know, Port Allegany is a wonderful place to live. Of course, I came from Pittsburgh, so when I can really appreciate the wonderful way of life that you can have in a small town like Port Allegany.
My name is David Roy. I'm a teacher at Port Allegany High School. My video I shot was about the high school, the students, and also have a little video of the elementary school and the VOTEC school. The video I shot was mostly in the high school. That's where that's my life, so that's where I wanted to shoot video. I started with the students raising the flag. We have students every morning, they raise the flag, and then at the end of the day, they lower the flag and fold it, and it's a nice touch to the school day. I had the students getting off the bus, coming to school. We shot some things, you know, in the classrooms all around. I shot video of shop classes, technology classes, chemistry class. We also had a student injured in a football game a couple weeks ago, and so on the day that I shot the video, we had hats on for Mat Day, and students who bought a sticker were allowed to wear their hats in school, and they raised a lot of money for Matt, and I also have some videos, some pretty cool hats that students got to wear that day. We have a wonderful art teacher here, Mrs. Hutton, and I shot some video of her students doing some oil painting. Her classroom is right next to mine, so I like to pop back and forth and see what her students are doing. I teach technology class. It's a new technology lab that the school just put in 2 years ago. It has different modules covering different areas of technology. We have aerodynamics and space travel and video production and digital photography, electricity, navigation, GPS. And we also have a CNC mill, a CNC lathe, and a robot arm. And so the students spend a few weeks at each module and then they move on. It's a really exciting class to teach. As far as the technology area goes, I give the kids a little bite of it at the high school, and then if they decide they like the CNC technologies, then they can go up to the VOTEC school and get the full shot. Every year, Port Allegany High School sponsors a blood drive through the American Red Cross. And our school consistently collects the most units of blood of any schools in the area. This last year, I think we collected, 86 or 87 units, which was just a very good take. The students all pitch in, they set up in the gym, and students all day long go down. There's never an empty bed down there. In fact, generally speaking, all the students who want to donate blood can't get in. We also have a very good turnout from the staff. At least a third, maybe half of the staff donate blood on that day. It's a very impressive amount of community giving at the school. I'm really happy to be involved with it. Like a lot of smaller towns, the school is the center of the community. There is something going on every day at the school. I'm just starting my 4th year here. I moved from Erie. Coming from a town the size of Erie, moving to a little town like Port Allegany, I wouldn't say it's culture shock or anything, but it is definitely a small town, incredibly friendly town. The first day I was here, I walked into the pizza shop and I just said, "I'm new here, what's good?" And a gentleman beside me who was ordering introduced himself, said, "Hey, I've got a couple kids going to school. What's your name? What do you teach?" He sat down with me, introduced himself. You wouldn't expect something like that in a big town, but a town like this, people just really friendly. They sit down, they chat with you. They'll do anything for you. It's great.
Coming up on Our Town Port Allegany, we'll take a look at a bit of architectural history, learn about a small town newspaper, and get the perspective of Port Allegany from 3 generations of residents. But right now, show your support for Port Allegany and Channel 3 by making a pledge. Thanks!
I'm Jonathan Staley. I'm the plant manager of the Pittsburgh Corning Port Allegany plant.
I'm Susan Freer. I'm the senior administrative assistant at the Pittsburgh Corning Port Allegany plant.
There is a lot of pride in the Port Allegany workforce of the Pittsburgh Corning plant. Pittsburgh Corning is a joint venture between PPG Glass and Corning Incorporated. It was founded in 1937, so there's a long history of glass making in Port Allegany, particularly glass block making. The people that make the glass block are very proud of what they do, and they do a very good job of it. It's been a leader in the industry since 1937 and still is the U.S. leader in glass block production, and we're real proud of it.
I did most of the videotaping, and I was out in the plant a lot with the workers and following the process along. We started off in the archive room filming one of the gentlemen who'd been at the plant for a long time, and he described some of the blocks that we used to make.
My name's Harvey Miller. We make different sizes. We make 8-inch, 6-inch, 12-inch, and we make different widths of what we call thin line or regular, and we also do solid blocks. One of the solid blocks that we do is a prison window block, which has a groove around the edges of it where the bars fit in, and they assemble it to the bars so the prisoners can look out, but yet they can't break out.
Then we went to the batch house where the whole process started, and we looked at the trains coming in where they unload some of the raw materials. We followed that into the batch mixers, and then we watched some of the raw materials go up the conveyors and into the tanks.
There's a real nice view of the glass melter in operation. The bath of liquid glass with the heating flames over top of it can be shown pretty clearly. Next step in the process is forming the glass gob, which is the raw material of the glass that gets into the pressing operation, and then the pressing of glass block halves. And it's a rotary machine that presses glass block halves repeatedly and then delivers them to the sealing machine. Ed Burgess is one of our senior press operators. Been with the company quite a number of years, an excellent operator, and he's shown operating the machine that makes glass block halves.
This is the block going through the layer. It comes down the layer to the cold end inspection, and there's a gentleman at that end who picks the block up and looks at it before it goes on to have the stickers put onto it and be packed. This is John McElwee and Dave Lewis, and they're packing the blocks into the boxes. From there they go down to a conveyor and they get packed through the auto packer and wrapped.
After the cartons are labeled, they're put on a conveyor to be palletized. After they're palletized, they're stretch wrapped and put in pallets to be shipped out in the shipping department. We ship glass blocks all over the United States, mostly by truck, some by rail. They go into home centers. Home Depot and Lowe's are our biggest customers. And we have a distribution network of glass block distributors and installers that go throughout the nation installing glass block applications. We have shown a number of the products that we make in individual photos. the different patterns and shapes that we make that are popular today, and some that have been popular in the past. We also have a number of views of banks that were made in the past as novelties to support the glass block business in the local area. One of the things that we were proud of is the solid horse heads and Scotty dog novelties that we'd made in the past. We also have a very good view of the valley that Port Allegany sits in from the top of our batch tower. Looking at it, it was a little bit of a rainy day today, so it's a rainy photo, but it's a good view of the valley and our plant from several stories high. We have about 220 hourly folks, a total of about 260 employees at the glass block plant in Port Allegany. The Port Allegany plant was started in 1937. Some of the individuals who worked on construction and then started the plant still live in town, so the start to finish of the plant exists in the town still today.
It's a great little town. It's wonderful. You're out running errands, and I'm out picking up the mail every day and chatting with the people at the post office and in the stores and that, and it's just a really nice little town.
Well, one of the things that describes Port Allegany and the people that work at the plant particularly is we work at the Port Allegany plant because we like living in Port Allegany. Hunting, fishing, outdoor activities, small town atmosphere, real peaceful way of life outside the plant is why people live in Port Allegany and really enjoy living in Port Allegany.
My name's Kim Fortner, and my video is about Lynn Hall. I consider Lynn Hall as Port Allegany's architectural claim to fame. The man that built Lynn Hall, Walter Hall, was a pioneer in his day. He believed in organic engineering, a blend of nature with the architectural designs that he created. The sandstones, the flagstones have all been quarried right on site. And he liked to use in all his buildings what was available at the location, and he used those in his construction. He was also a great builder of reinforced concrete. And he built many schools in this area, and the local high school here is a fine example of that. While building his house on Lynn Hall Hill, a man named Edgar Kaufman was passing through. And Edgar Kaufman wanted a house built of his own down near Pittsburgh. And he had already contracted an architect by the name of Frank Lloyd Wright. And when he saw the house that Walter was building, he said, this is how I want my house to be. And they ended up contracting Walter and his son to go down there and build Falling Water. Later, they completed Lynn Hall Hill, and it was actually an inn and a banquet center for this area. It's a common misconception that Mr. Hall's building was influenced by Frank Lloyd Wright, and that's not true. If anything, it was the opposite. One of the innovative features about Lynn Hall Hill is that they made radiant panels in the floor. And we're talking back in the 30s and 40s. He was one of the first people to actually try and heat a floor of a building to heat the building. Well, I was fascinated. Having lived here all my life, I didn't realize that the design influenced Frank Lloyd Wright's designs. I just always assumed it was the other way around. And it really is special the way that he used nature and the native stones and stuff, in construction. And to me, that was the biggest thing about the building that I enjoyed is learning things that I haven't known all these years, having lived right here. Port Allegany is unique to this area because of the people, because of the industry here in town. There is a lot of historical things here that are would be interesting to many other people, I think.
My name is Jordan Staley. I'm in 10th grade, and I did my videotape on the Allegany River and Mr. Gucci. Mr. Gucci is a world-renowned canoer and kayaker. He goes on many different canoe trips. He does a 70-miler every year. He missed it twice over 23 years, which is pretty impressive. He has his own tub in his house. At this tub, he likes to canoe and practice in the wintertime, because in the wintertime the Allegheny River is usually frozen over. The Allegheny River impacts many people's lives in Port Allegany because Port Allegany started off as a port along the Allegheny. So we do lots of recreational sports here dealing with the Allegheny River. In my video, I took pictures of Mr. Gucci practicing in his tub and explaining a little bit about his tub.
There's probably about 18 inches of water up front and about 20 in the back. It's probably about 7 feet wide and 20 feet long. And the resistance to the water off the walls makes it a little harder to paddle, which is a better training method. And I have 2 plastic tractor seats so far apart, and that way that it'd be just like paddling in a regular canoe out on the river.
I also took pictures of him on the Allegheny River itself over the Route 6 bridge.
Why do you love the Allegheny?
Why I like the Allegheny River here, because it's close for me. I can put in, say at the river bridge down here, and our training anymore, a lot of it is down and back upstream. That way we don't have to have a driver come to pick us up, and we can go as far as we want, because there's really no trees or a lot of obstacles in the water to prevent us from coming back up. So, and anyhow, when you're coming back up, it is a good training method.
Mr. Gucci wins all kinds of trophies every year. He goes to nationals every year, and usually he brings back either an award or a medal. He won the nationals 3 times in a row, and he also does races in New York State. Mr. Gucci is very impressive, and everybody in Port Allegany has been to his house at least once, except for me. That's why I had to do this film on Mr. Gucci. Port Allegany is exciting to me because there's so much wildlife and so many things that you can do outside of the workplace, from kayaking, canoeing, bicycling, hiking, walking around town. It's a safe place to have your kids walk outside the street. I moved from a big city, so I know what it's like to not be able to go down the street to your friends without driving a car or something.
I'm Rebecca Thompson. I'm in 9th grade. I did my tape about the library. First, I interviewed Janice Schaefer. She's one of the librarians at the library.
We have a bookmobile that serves our outlying townships. It serves Otto Township, Eldred Township, Eldred Borough, and Annan Township. We also serve Liberty Township and Port Allegany Borough. And the bookmobile is a very popular service, and we are one of the few small libraries that also have a bookmobile.
I taped on the children's section. That's where I usually volunteer. It's really funny when the kids are running around, looking for everything. The adult library, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's a lot of adults go there, especially my mom. Marge, she's one of the oldest librarians there. She told me about the history of the library.
Sam Smith, before his death in November 1926, he and his wife talked about the library, and she promised to continue his support of such a facility. So that's how we got this building. It was a gift from her in memory of her husband. She and her advisors visited libraries in other towns, and in 1928, this building was built.
It's really important to me because if you're looking up something, you can find it there. Pretty much anything you want, it's always there. Port Allegany is really, really small and quiet, and it's tons of fun.
I'm Charles Bowler. I'm the retired publisher of the Reporter-Argus, the Port Allegany's newspaper, for well over 125 years. Having a newspaper in a town like this is important because we need to keep track of the activities of various local organizations as well as individuals. A lot of emphasis on individuals in a small town newspaper, and sometimes kind of silly sounding things in a way. They're the type of stories in a small town newspaper that you don't find in metropolitan press at all, you know. The founder of the first newspaper in Port Allegany was Arthur A.J. Hughes, which was in 1874. My father, Charles Bowler Sr., purchased the newspaper in 1906, and he remained as a publisher until 1965. And then I became the publisher from 1965 to 1985 when I sold to Dan Shalkowski. And then after his ownership, the Potter Leader from Countersport purchased the paper from him, and they own it and operate it to this day. That picture was taken back in 1981 on the last day that we used that old linotype machine in our plant, because we were switching over, of course, to computerized typesetting methods. And in fact, the technology of the newspaper business altered so much during the last few years that I was active in it that I began to feel like I didn't know anything about a business that I'd put my life into. But I guess I did, really, realistically. But made you feel kind of overwhelmed sometimes, the way technology was moving. And it hasn't stopped moving to this day, really. I've lived 79 years, which is my age. I've lived my entire life in this community. And when I say that to some people, they say, well, you haven't lived your entire life here yet. And that's true. Well, this is an important... Well, this town is the best place in the whole world, in my opinion. And, of course, I guess I would feel that way having been here forever. But I do love the lifestyle here. We were talking earlier, before I came in for this interview, about the fact that in a small community, everybody knows your business most of the time. And I recall that when I was a quite young person, and maybe was engaging in some activities that weren't maybe as nice as they might have been, you know, which all of us have, I guess. I used to resent the fact that everybody knew my business. But since then, through the years that I've lived here, I've come to appreciate how wonderful it is to have people who all know what your business is, you know, and are concerned about it, and will show that concern in times of bereavement or times of illness or any time of personal trouble. And it's a great place to live, and I'm glad I didn't live anywhere else.
I'm Sue Carlson.
I'm Howie Gustafson.
I'm Sarah Lyons.
The three of us work together to try to tell a story of Port Allegany. And the story forms on the basis of the 6 farms that make up the foundation of our town. And those 6 farms were Ludwig and Alva Lowbridge's son. They were on the south side of town. And then we had Aaron Arnold. He had 95 acres, which encompassed the school at one end and the industrial side of town and the town center. And then we had Smith Brothers. They took the center section of town and settled that. And then as time progressed, we had Mr. Benton. And then at the very far end of town, we had Vanderhill. And everybody in town has those names on the deeds of their property. And the significance of those 6 farms, essentially, is that they cleared the land. And as the town became settled, starting at the south and working north, as the wilderness was cleared, they sold lots off to the settlers coming in.
I've been around here for 85 years now, so I've seen an awful lot of changes. My big interest, though, was in the north end of town, and we have a picture here of where the Swedish Lutheran Church was originated 124 years ago. But all those Swedes were a part of the labor force that went to work in the glass factories. Our glass factories were very, very important here. And there were so many of them. Not just the two that we have today, but there were several others. They talk about the glass industry in Port Allegany, and the glass industry built Port Allegany. And we still have 2 glass plants in Port Allegany. All they tell you about was they brought the glass plants in here because there was gas here. There was also sandstone, and that's what you used to make glass. And they hauled it from these hills here in porcelain wagons to the glass plants. This road that goes up here was a route that my grandfather used to haul rock from the top of this hill to the glass plants.
Well, we filmed present-day Moose Park, which is at the junction of Route 155 and Route 6. And it's where the original people came into town and they would camp there. And it's actually where the original Native Americans used to come and build their canoes, too, as they would come up the Cinemahoning and then portage their canoes. And then they get into the creek in Portage Creek, and then they come into town. This is Portage Creek, and it is the way that the settlers first came to Port Allegany, and now it's our swimming hole.
This land was so covered with forests that it was almost impenetrable. The only way in was through the rivers or the creeks, and so we filmed the areas around that to give a sense of the history. The railroad came through in the 1870s. And the significance of that was it caused the biggest growth rate in Port Allegany from about 700 people in the 1870s to suddenly a swelling of 2,000 people. And Port Allegany went up to another couple hundred after that, but have never really gone much beyond 3,000 in its entire history.
It was just interesting to learn all these facts about the place I've grown up in that I didn't realize before. Like even to go traipsing around in the cemetery and see tombstones that I actually recognize. Now I know the names of the people, I guess. Before I didn't realize who they were.
Best thing about being in a small town, I think it's just being able to live life without worrying about the outside closing in. You live unafraid, and a lot of people look out for you here. I love traveling the hills and going into the woods and smelling the fresh air. You don't have horrible air quality here. It's pure and it's fresh. The mountains, there's always a breeze. The temperature is fabulous. Great winters. I love the snow. It's not more than we can handle, it's just enough. And the summers are temperate and beautiful.
I thought it was a really great place to grow up because it's such a friendly neighborhood. You know everybody, and you don't have to lock the doors. And you can leave your bicycle wherever you want. And you can go outside and play tennis in the road or basketball in the street or do whatever you want outside, and you don't have to worry about what's going to happen to you or what's going to happen to the people around you or anything like that. So it's really nice to trust your neighbors.
Well, the best thing about this town is that I'm still living here. I've managed to see all the changes, and this town has a great deal of opportunity. We have a great labor force. We have plenty of opportunity for transportation. We still have the railroad here, which is a big thing, and we are on a main route, and I can't think of a better place to be.
Support for our town, Port Allegany, comes from the First National Bank of Port Allegany, your locally owned, independent bank serving the financial needs of Port Allegany and surrounding communities since 1888 with a full range of financial products and personalized customer service. Member FDIC. The Port Allegany Economic Development Corporation, committed to advancing the industrial, economic, commercial, and civic interests of Port Allegany and the surrounding area. Dedicated workers, economic resources, and natural beauty, all here in Port Allegany.